Okay, so I want to take just a minute and introduce you to the people who listen to the podcast. So you're the one they call Brent, right? Did I get that right?
Yep, I'm Brent.
And what do you do, Brent?
I am your assistant.
So how do you assist me?
I basically do your schedule, your
And
emails.
Laundry.
Definitely not that.
You don't do my laundry?
No.
So how long do you hope to work for me? Like forever?
Forever.
Do you feel
Until
like
I
this
pass.
is permanent?
Yes.
So this is it?
I'm here for the long run.
So this is like if we look at the arc of your life,
This is the
the
peak.
top.
This is my peak.
Wow. Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Pre-Accident Podcast. I am your host, Todd Conklin. Welcome. Welcome to the pod, man. Glad you're here. So that was Brent. You got to hear Brent, a little recording of Brent, because I wanted you to hear Brent. There's been a big change in the podcast headquarters, if you will, and it's a sad change. And so I want to take a moment and just kind of share part of what happened. So for the last 3 or 4 years, I've had a wonderful lady helping me, answering phone calls and answering emails and scheduling stuff and coordinating workshops and all the stuff that you have to do. And I'm just bad at that stuff. I'll never be that organized person. I'm just not that guy. And her name was Leslie Hinton. What a wonderful, wonderful human being. Well, unfortunately, and quite sadly and quite suddenly, Leslie passed away. She was feeling kind of poorly, got up in the middle of the night, moved to her chair, and died. And that's a lesson for all of us. I mean, there's a lesson for all of us. Number one is don't hesitate to call for help. That's really an important part of thinking about it. Nobody's that strong or brave. You can get some help, and it's okay. And I think the more important second lesson is how fragile life is and how short our journey is with each other, and how we should appreciate every single part of it, every single part of the day. Even when it gets icky and tough and the airline's 4 hours late and they're mean to you, still think about the fact that it's not forever, because you're not forever. So hug the people that are with you, and if you feel bad, follow up on it. I think that makes a huge difference. And she was a wonderful, wonderful friend, and she was great. And she was a huge part of all the stuff that we did together, at least for the last 4 years or so. And Brent's going to step in and take her place. And I wanted you to meet him because he's kind of the new voice. He's funny. He's really funny. He's kind of shy. And so if you can put a shy person on the podcast, well, don't miss a chance to do that. Although that is not the problem today. Today is not going to be a shy person on the podcast day, because today we're going to talk to the ever effervescent Charles Major. You know, if you remember my New Year's resolutions, you know that I want I want Charles Minor to meet Charles Major. I don't know if Sam is coming in there. I also know Sam Minor. It's a long story. So Charles Major wanted to talk to us about a couple things. One is he wanted to talk about HPRCT, which we talk about. I mean, that's a good thing to talk about. But I really was more interested in the fact that his organization tripled in size basically overnight. And I'm wondering how he scales things like human performance, new view of safety, culture, operational excellence, all the things that he does for a living. So I really tried to dig in on that as much as I could. But we do talk about HPRC. It's in Colorado Springs this summer. You'll hear all the dates. You should maybe think about going. It might be worth going. The last one I went to was quite controversial. I got attacked, kind of. I mean, I got cornered. I got cornered hard. I got cornered by very angry people who told me I was wrong. You are wrong. You are wrong. Which, a lot of people tell me I'm wrong. So that's not that unusual. But maybe it'll happen again. So that is going to be this summer. But until now, we're in the spring, which, if you know anything about the part of the world I live in, this is the best time in the whole world, because this is when we start transferring stuff outside. So now we're living outside. Well, it's on the cusp a little bit, but the outdoor TV's blaring away. Dinner starts to go outside every night, and we start hanging out and talking and sitting on the furniture outside. And it is my favorite time in New Mexico. Spring, summer, fall, mostly outdoor times, which I like a whole lot. And, no humidity, no bugs. Not rubbing it in, just saying no humidity, no bugs. So it's a little bit easier. Well, now we should get into the podcast because there's lots to cover. So without any further ado, let's welcome Charles Major back to the podcast to talk about two things: HPRCT and how do you scale safety, culture, and operations in a big way quickly. Really? It's not going to take more than 5 minutes.
I wouldn't think so. Let's find out.
What are we going to do?
We're going to talk about HPRCT.org, the premier human performance conference.
Oh, so it's premier. I don't think I can do anything in 5 minutes. Seriously, I'm thinking it takes me 5 minutes to walk across the room.
I agree. I've seen you walk across the room.
It's not because I'm a bad walker. It's just that I talk to everyone. I'm like Barry. If you don't connect with people, then you haven't done it correctly.
I agree.
So we just did a workshop for you guys. What was your impression? What did you think?
Well, it was incredible for us. I mean, we had planned on not just trying to learn and promote you and the concepts within our company, but learn and promote with the other people. So having people here from Denmark, oil and gas, that was exactly the kind of thing that we needed to help move us forward, because we just expanded about a year ago, about 3 times larger. So this is taking our new leadership team and starting those guys off right, and it kind of laid the ground that it's not just some kind of crazy idea that Todd thought up or I thought up, but there's really major companies out there doing this.
How do you expand it? You're 3 times the size. What are you doing? I mean, how do you scale stuff up times 3?
Well, it's definitely a different kind of game, because usually we knew all the players.
Yeah.
We knew exactly where to go when we had a problem and who to talk to, and we knew where the problems were going to come from. But now that we're 3 times bigger and have a company that's has about 6 different cultures instead of just ours, we're trying to figure out where all the leaders are laying, and they're all laying different about what just culture is, predetermination, all those things. So we're all getting on the same page at the same time.
What surprised you?
What's surprising about this transition?
Yeah. Not just or life in general.
Well, we thought we were fantastic operators, and it turns out that daggone it, we are. It just turns out that maybe there are other people who are really good operators. So we have been very pleasantly surprised about how good they run the assets, but then totally blown away by the attitude, because with this merger, they're now trying to adopt and do things the way that we've done them, and that doesn't always feel real good.
Yeah. In many ways, it's a big, ugly mirror held up to you. I mean, it must be hard to watch some of your processes happen in front of you.
And it's also difficult when we start walking down a path and find out that we weren't the only people who could do it right, and maybe they've done it better. So that's been a learning curve for us. And, we're a Texas-based company, and we are now from Maine to California. And, just last week, we had the open and honest comment that, hey, there are people who do things right that don't live in Texas. So
I can't believe you said that and lightning didn't hit you. Well, but I like the fact that this humility is, I mean, it's what, Edgar Schein talks about, humble inquiry. And this is truly, it's almost like it's a system-focused humility. That's actually a really good lesson. What else do you learn? I mean, what hints would you give anybody who's about to go on a journey like this that you learned? The projector's going to explode.
Let me say about the humility and kind of address that thing at the same time, is that, with Barry Boswell from the beginning, when we were going to go through this transition, McKinsey came in and said, hey, we got to set what parameters, what measures, what standards we're going to have. And from the very beginning, Barry said, how can we interface with the people that we're going to buy? How can we get their input to find out what they want this to look like, what they were already working on, instead of coming in with a mandate? So from the very beginning, as much as was legally possible, and maybe a little beyond, we were collaborating on what the future looked like. Instead of it being a mandate coming out of our company only, it became a shared joint concept.
So you guys co-created really the future for that transition. That's cool. So tips?
And for where we couldn't work together, we created what our best practice was, and then came and said, share with you our best practices. So as much as possible, we had their leadership team in early. And as much as possible, we said, we're not going to disrupt your organization and your processes in the beginning. We want you to continue to run well. We want to understand what positions and values you guys hold before we come and try to change those values and positions.
That totally is the sort of Edgar Schein humble inquiry. Wow, that's cool. It's cool to watch it pay off. So what's the future hold for you?
Well, it's looking pretty good right now. So if you look back on the year that we've had, and we've been sprinting for 2 years to try to put this thing together, with the company that we acquired, it turned out to be their safest year in history. So of all the years that they've been doing this, we got results that were beyond what they've attained before. And then financially, also the best year the companies have had. So wonderful payout there. But having the people work together, our concept is one team. And that's our number one goal. We think everything else will fall together after we have one team.
Sweet. So tell me about HPRCT, because clearly you think everyone needs to go to it because you really are aligned that way. So I hear you. I'm not pushing back. I want to know, why is HPRCT exciting and why should we go? Tell me everything.
So the deal here, Todd, is that if you want to go with the biggest and the best, then, you're going to be us. The thing is, this is our 25th anniversary. I don't know if you knew that.
No, really?
Silver, baby.
So is there going to be cake?
25 years.
Is there going to be cake?
I will have a silver cake there.
All right.
I will make sure there is a silver cake there. So 25 years, and I don't know, you probably know the great history of HPRCT, but some people may not. It began with the people who were kind of carrying the torch for this for many years, the nuclear kind of industry. And it's grown beyond those confines. So it got into other utility companies, then oil and gas, some medical in the last few years, more and more kind of aviation. So as it started off, HPRCT, possibly the dumbest acronym for an organization, that's human performance, root cause, and trending. So this was these kind of HRO, kind of high risk organizations getting together and saying, what can we learn, to prevent and mitigate events? So what can we do when these things happen? What trending could we possibly have that would be predictive in nature to help reduce the number of events and then also the impacts of when those events happen? We've, in the last few years, taken in formally HRO, resilience engineering, taken in those groups. So we've had an infuse of those kind of thought leaders and processes over the last 2 years.
Which is actually kind of cool. I mean, new blood makes a difference, and I really like the way those resilience guys think and talk.
And it's a great match for us because they tend to be more academic in nature. Mm-hmm. So they have that academic piece that many of us lack. We were just doing it as practitioners because it seemed like it kept working. And they're coming in with the academic piece, and in some cases are in search of the practical application. So it's for us, it's the opportunity to take maybe what they're doing, have a little Reese's peanut butter marriage, and get together and share a place where they could actually put into practice those academic thought processes.
Who's speaking? Who's going to be on the docket, on the agenda? Am I saying it right? Agenda? On the schedule, the agenda, the memo. Do you have a memo on the agenda?
Yeah, the memo on the agenda. It's a who's list, best conference possibly ever. Rob Fisher, our old friend Rob Fisher. We're going to have Bert Slogmallen,
whom I really like. Have you met him?
I have met him.
He's really cool.
Bert?
Yeah, really well.
I didn't know you knew Bert. Yeah, I love him.
He's been on the podcast.
I did not remember that.
He's a friend of the pod.
Yeah. So I met him at an HRO conference in Washington, D.C. a few years ago. Knows his stuff, can work a crowd. Look forward to the things he's going to be able to pull off.
Did he use his Lego slides?
Yes, we do have the Lego slides. And he's going to do some interactive learning activities with us. I think he kind of specializes in that. Are you familiar with the staff ride process?
Very much so, yeah. That's out of the Force Service.
Right. So, yeah, came out of the military. So he's going to do a staff ride workshop for us. And I've seen him do that before in the past, and it's a very interesting process to pull that off. So
you haven't heard his podcast?
No.
So when he did his podcast, because I've known him a long time, he called in and he said, before we get started, there's a bomb in the art gallery. So if I leave, I've gone to go remove a bomb. And I said, well, we don't have to do the podcast. And he said, oh, no, it's fine. It's a bomb. They'll call me when they need me. It was so interesting. And then we made it all the way through the podcast. I don't actually know how that ends. I'll have to ask him.
So I thought I knew Bert, but you're saying he actually removes bombs on the side.
Yeah, he's a fire chief.
Oh, okay. Wow.
He's a fire chief at Utrecht. He's got a big job.
And how'd you meet him?
We spoke together at a meeting in Amsterdam. Right. Don't you speak at meetings in Amsterdam where they have plausible deniability brownies?
I go anywhere there's plausible deniability brownies. And speaking of which, Todd, that's funny you would say that. As HPRCT conferences in Colorado this year.
That's a whole state of plausible deniability brownies.
At the famous Colorado Springs. I mean, it can't get any better. So you could.
Where's it located in Colorado Springs? What's the name of that place?
Oh,
no. I'll look it up and tell people.
Yeah, I'll get that. But it's that you can go out and enjoy nature with the brownie. I think it's a combo thing that we had planned out pretty good. Yeah, it's going to work out.
So you're saying to enjoy the brownies while you're at HPRCT. You know what would be really great is if one of the breaks you served those brownies but didn't mark them like that.
Okay, I'm now writing brownies on break. Got it. So we'll do that. So you know Riz from DOE?
Yes.
All right, so Riz will be there. He's going to do some interactive stuff about making the connection between human performance, HRO, RE, and RCA. So that's the theme of this year's conference, is making connections. So what's exciting about that is because we've always wanted to connect these practitioners with thought process leaders, consultants out in the field, bring in leaders every few years, even at the CEO level, to make those connections, and then also make the connections that we see often between the good things going on in all the fields representatives. So not only are we bringing together all these industries who have a different kind of slant and need for the learning, but also these people who come from traditionally different thought processes together into one area where we can learn and share. So we're going to do things different this year to facilitate that. We're going to have tabletop discussions, break up the large room into tables, where then go around and have conversations for 15 or 20 minutes per table and do some rotation thought processes, putting together a TED Talk, having a poster session where people can talk. So we're going to have a lot more interactive connectivity than we've had in the past. Shane Bush. Do you know Shane Bush?
T. Shane Bush. I do. T. Shane Bush.
T. Shane Bush. So Shane will be there, not only speaking for us, but also doing a workshop at the end. So the way the conference works, we have 3 days of beautiful conference in wonderful Colorado Springs, starting on June 18th. That's a Tuesday. And then the 19th and the 20th. And then on that last day, we have the workshop. It's kind of a separate deal, so you have a choice to go to it or not. And then you can hang around for the weekend, which most people find themselves doing. We're going to have Todd Conklin there. You probably met Todd. And he'll be there speaking for us on the last day of the conference, which is June 20th.
I'm sorry to hear that. Did they make you take him?
Well, it's kind of a package deal. If you want brownies in Colorado, you got to take Todd. So it all came at one kind of deal. Bob Edwards, you probably have heard of Bob. I think
Robert Edwards, the big Bob. Yeah, I've known him.
Probably been on the podcast.
Several.
So he'll be there actually doing a workshop for us. So he'll be one of our last day workshop guys. So kind of delve into the secrets of learning teams. We'll delve into that for us.
Sounds good. And how do they register? I can't even talk. How do they register?
Well, the best way, Todd, is go to hprct.org.
That's hprct.org. Got it?
That is correct. And then you'll see kind of the draft agenda as it sets up there. We've talked about a lot of the general sessions, but there are, in the afternoon, 6 or 7 different workshops or breakout sessions that people can get into. So there's a lot of choice and a lot of ability to get into different rooms with different people and learn a lot.
Sounds great. Thanks for doing this. It's a lot of work, isn't it?
It's a heck of a lot of work for a volunteer organization, so I can't say enough about the volunteers that we have to put this on. It's a growing thing. We've been reaching out, so almost doubled in size in the last 5 years. And
what are your numbers now?
About 220, 230.
That is way bigger than I remember in the old days. The old days, it was when they had it in Monterey all the time, really small.
Yeah, Monterey is kind of a hard place somehow to get to, and then expensive for some people. But as we broke out to other industries beyond just those nuke kind of industries and utilities, we see a lot of good response.
So the invitation's wide open?
Yeah, and if you didn't have a chance, didn't know about it, to submit a paper or anything this year, please go out to HPRCT, click get on our newsletter. That will put your email in a position so that when we send out our next call for papers, we can have you out, because we want to again move more toward this being a practitioner-led thing. So, man, there's so many great companies doing great things out there, innovative on the edge that we need to know about and share. So please, if you're listening to this and you think you have a good program, man, share it, because that's just the right thing to do.
So there's the news from Charles Major in Waxahachie. I just like saying that, Waxahachie, Texas. After we did a really fun little conference with a gang of people, really good time. We had a really good time, actually. And it's always fun to talk to Charles, and it's fun to talk to him about all the things that are changing, the way the world is becoming different, and his expansion of what they do, or maybe his is maybe the wrong way to say it, the expansion of what they're doing and how they're making it happen and how they're just growing by leaps and bounds. I think we should probably touch back into Charles and see how the ×3 effort goes after a year or so. I'd really like to kind of follow up and see, and I'm sure he'll let us, I don't think that'll be a problem, follow up and see what that looks like and how that played out and what things happened and made it go. And, of course, our HPRCT, it really is a great chance to get together with each other, and that, my friends, is probably worth it in and of itself, if you ask me. And you're not, but if you did, that is what I would say. The chance to get together is worthwhile. So if you get a chance, I would highly, highly recommend visiting HPRCT and hanging out with us. That'd be good, too. Until then, stay in touch. If you've got ideas for the podcast, I'm always wide open. I'm so glad you're here. Thanks for listening. The numbers are just consistently good. A lot of people listen to this, and I think it's great because it's an opportunity for us to talk to each other. It's not so much about the junk I talk about. I don't know if that's even very interesting. But it is very interesting to get together and talk about the world in which we live, because that world has lots going on, and there's lots happening. So I'm always up for it. Any good ideas? I did get a really good suggestion around sort of discipline and accountability, and that always kind of comes up. But if you've got any strong ideas on that, I'd like to open that one up a little to the audience to see if in the pod community we've got some ideas and thinking about that. So there you go. So that's the podcast for today. Learn something new every single day. Have as much fun as you possibly can. And for goodness sakes, you guys, be safe.